This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, we'll get started. So, hello everyone. I am Swati. I am a project manager with Season Watch. Season Watch is a citizen science project where we are observing and recording seasonal changes in common trees in India. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar where we have a guest speaker with us today, Dr. Mahua Ghara. Welcome, Dr. Mahua. Dr. Mahua Ghara is currently an assistant professor at the Sister Nivedita University in Kolkata. She is also a scientific advisor for Disappearing Dialogues, an NGO based in Kolkata that is working with schools and communities in East Kolkata wetlands, bridging art, ecology, conservation, and education. She obtained a PhD in ecology from the Center for Ecological Sciences in Indian Institute of Science, studying a fig wasp community for her thesis work, which is one of the most fascinating topics in ecology. She followed this with her postdoctoral research at Tel Aviv University on flower colors and herbivory of flowers in royal irises. She is fascinated by plant animal interactions and forever curious about who's eating the plants and who is helping the plants to produce seeds. I warmly welcome Dr. Mahua. And before I hand it over to you, I would like to request all participants to keep your videos and audios on mute during the talk. Please post any questions you have in the chat box at any time, and we'll take them up after the presentation. So, with that, I welcome you all again and I hand it over to you, Dr. Mahua. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, Swati. Uh, just let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So before I start, I would like to start by acknowledging Swati and Geeta Ramaswamy for inviting me. And of course, hold on, I can't see it. My PhD advisor, Professor Rene Borges at the Center for Ecological Sciences, for introducing me to figs in a very different way, and the entire lab members, my past lab members, I would say, and of course the figs and the wasps, because they are so fascinating. But today's talk, I thought, since instead of just talking about figs and the pollination of figs, I would give an overview of what is pollination itself. So the talk is divided into two portions. The first one is on pollination in general, and then we will dive into the world of the fig and the fig wasps. Okay. All right. So in the abstract, not the abstract, it was generally mentioned that I study plant animal interactions, and I'm mentioning it, all of it here, because some of you are very new to this field of ecology. So I thought I'll give a very, very brief introduction. So what is plant animal interactions? Now we see interactions between organisms, but when we talk about plant animal interactions, essentially we are looking at two different kingdoms. Okay. So we have the plant group and we have the animal group. Okay. And these interactions are of various kinds. As I have pointed out here, there is a positive sign and a negative sign. Positive is for beneficial interactions and negative is for antagonistic or negative interactions. And this happens all around us. Okay. A caterpillar eating leaves is a part of plant animal interaction, which is a negative interaction. Worms or insects eating your dal and rice, containers in containers, that's also a part of plant animal interaction. And then we have a positive interaction. One of them is pollination, which I'll come to. The second very interesting plant animal interaction is frugivory, where again you see it everywhere. And we are also frugivores as humans. We consume fruits, and the colors, the smell, whatever we see in these plants, many of them have been shaped by the interaction with the animals. Okay, so that's a brief introduction. Now, why we study plant-animal interactions? Okay, any guess what is this photograph about? What are these white dots? Uh, any quick guess? Is it a flock of birds?
Locust? Are these?
Yes, very good. Yes, it's a swarm of locusts, and this is taken from National Geographic. And this happens in India also. Locusts are insects.
Yeah, form of insect, I think.
So this is one example of why we need to, or why plant-animal interaction studies could be important, because we are looking at damages that's done to the crops. On the other hand, because of these interactions, the beneficial interactions, a part of which is pollination service, we get to have the seeds. Seeds give rise to forest, and a lot of the food that we consume is also a product of pollination service. And this is just to give you a quick data. It's that 3 out of 4 of the world's crops that we consume are dependent on pollinators to some extent. Okay, so tomatoes, for example, they would fruit, but if there is a pollinator, then the fruiting is better. Strawberries, again, very nice studies have been done that have shown that when pollinators are pollinating strawberries, the shape is better, there is better nutrition in those. And pollination services alone contributes to around 500 billion US dollars. Okay, so it is important for our food and nutrition security also. And other than that, after this talk, I am sure you will also realize that this topic itself is very interesting and dynamic. It's not one rule doesn't fit everything. So each plant has its own characters, and each pollinator would also have its own unique features. So let's start with what is pollination. Pollination is nothing but transfer of pollen to the female reproductive organ. And what do we have here? So if this is a flower, we have the male organ and we have the female organ. The males are producing the pollen, and the pollen can be transferred to the female organ on the same flower, or it could be across different flowers or different plants. Okay, and again, those are who are totally new to botany. If we look at a flower, it may have the male organ, the anther, and this is a close-up of the stigma with pollen grain on it. And pollen grain also come in a diverse shapes and sizes. This is just to show that this is not coronavirus, this is just a pollen grain, and this is one of the smallest pollen grain. Okay, now, so this talk is about couriers. So there is a flower that's producing the pollen grain, and there is the stigma also. So how do the pollen grains reach the stigma? And we know that plants are stationary. That's the fundamental thing. That plants are standing in one place. They don't have legs, but they have come up with ways to get their jobs done. And one of them is to get mated to produce seeds. So who are the couriers? Couriers can be abiotic, which could be wind, water, or these could be biological organisms. And there is a huge diversity of these organisms. Okay. In this image itself, what you can see are different layers. One is that you will see that there are different groups of animals that are pollinators. Okay. What you also see is that there is a day and there is a night. So we have pollinators that are pollinating in the daytime, and we have pollinators that are pollinating at night time. And based on that, the characteristics or the traits of the flower and also the traits of the pollinators are very different. Usually, for example, when we have white flowers, they are usually night blooming, and they have extremely fragrant, they are extremely fragrant. And so this makes sense because again at night, we are guided by our sense of smell, not by our vision. Okay. So this is just to show you the diversity of in pollinators, and see, cockroaches are also pollinators, as snails are also. Again, these are rare, not so common. And but most often when we talk about pollinators, these are the insects. But again, if I were to ask you to draw a pollinator, I think immediately you would draw a bee, and that too probably a bumblebee, which is again not so common in all over India. Okay. But pollinators also, amongst the insects also, there are many groups, and one of them are the Lepidoptera, that is your butterflies and moths. Then flies are also pollinators. This is a syrphid fly, or it's also called as the hoverfly. In the winter times, you'll see it hovering near a flower. It's like a helicopter that hovers. For mango, for example, flies have been found to be important pollinators. Then we have this entire group of bees, wasps, and ants, and then there are beetles also. So again, this is to be remembered that when we talk about pollination, or at least when I am talking about pollination, I do not want to talk about only one focused group. There is a diversity, and oftentimes we are neglecting this diverse group only for the sake of honeybees that can be put in boxes. Okay. So now this slide is just showing this transfer of pollen, and one may ask that why pollination is happening, and why would an insect even come to the plant? So the plant would provide a reward, and in this case the reward is in the form of pollen or nectar. So you see this bee has lot of pollen, it's made a pollen ball, and it is for consumption, but again while collecting this, pollination happens. And what does the plant get? When the bee is coming to collect the pollen, essentially it is also pollinating, so putting the pollen on the stigma of the flower, and as a result the plant can produce seeds, and here the insect can get its food. But this is only one kind of reward, and what you can also note here is that I've put a plus sign, which means that it is beneficial to both the partners. Plant is also benefited and the insect is also benefited. Though again most commonly we talk about pollen as the reward, pollen or nectar, there are other rewards also. And these rewards can include resins. In certain groups, heat is also a reward. This is in colder places where the beetle would come in for the heat, and it will move into this floral axis, and heat is there. And in the process, again, it collects pollen, is lodged on its body and moves. And then there is this shelter reward. This is what, as part of my postdoc, I was also looking at. I was looking at the floral color, but these are the royal irises. And here the bees come into these flowers. So you see this little tunnel here. So bees actually move in. These are like hotel rooms. So the bees would check in and out of these rooms in the evening where to sleep. And in the process, they pollinate, and eventually they would come inside and they would sleep in their chosen rooms. Okay. So it's like this bee hotel over there. And other than this, there is also this other very interesting pollination system. It's called the nursery pollination. And what is nursery pollination? Here, the insect would lay its eggs in the plant, and the offspring of the insect, the babies of the insect, would develop, or insect by insect, I mean the pollinator. So the pollinator offspring would require the flowers for their development, and the flowers, on the other hand, get benefited by the production of seed. Okay. So this is in brief on what is pollination, but now here is a catch, is that when we talk about pollination and plant strategies, so yes, there is a reward, they are coming for pollen, they get nectar, there is shelter or something, but is it always like this? No. Plants are smart and deceptive also. So this is the case of food deception. This is in an orchid species. where there is a model orchid flower, and this model has the reward. So this is the genuine candidate, okay? So this has nectar, and there is a mimic flower. This doesn't provide any reward or any nectar. And the bee would come, wouldn't know which one to go to, and then both get benefited, okay? So this mimic flower essentially is not producing the reward, but it's getting benefit of pollination. In this case of another orchid, this is sexual deception. It's even more devious. Here, the flower would mimic like a female, okay? So this is not a bee, but it looks like the female of a bee. And this male thinks that it's a female, tries to mate, and then in the process pollinates. All right. So that's more or less on pollination. Oh, I'm going too fast. It's okay. Now we'll talk about the pollination of figs specifically. When we talk about figs, it's like you understand pollination of one fig species, then you are very confident that you know how 750 species of plants get pollinated, okay? Because it's the same. Now, what are figs? Figs belong to family Moraceae, and Moraceae is the family that also has our mulberry trees, that has cuttle or jackfruit. So they are all relatives of figs, but there is a difference in the presence of flowers, where we see the flowers. So this is one example of a fig tree, a banyan tree that all of you have seen. It's very, very common all across India. And then we have another example of fig or a ficus species. This is the peepal tree. Then we have the gular tree, or in south it's atimara. And these are also very common. So how do you know what is a fig and what is not a fig? What's unique is that you don't get to see the flowers of a fig, right? So typically you would have some green structures like this, and one fine day you will see that there are red structures on the same tree. And those are the red fruits, are the ones that suddenly huge number of birds are there, squirrels are there, monkeys are there. But how did pollination even happen? Was pollination necessary, or how did it produce seeds? So other than those figs, as I said, 750 species, and there is a diversity in the way they appear, also in the way the figs appear, okay? So the size of a typical fig can be as small as a pea, green pea, and it could be as big as a tennis ball, okay? So we see a diversity in size. If you look at these photographs, you'll see that the arrangements are also different. So here it's in cluster, many of them are together. Here on the other hand, they are hanging and it's like one from each axis. But if you cut it open, you'll see that there are some seed-like structures inside, okay? And that is the fig inflorescence converted into a fruit. So how do you identify a fig? Is that if you see any such green structure on a tree, you collect it, you cut it. If you cut it, you'll see that the space is hollow from within, and it need not be pink in color. It could be white in color. It could be little creamish in color. You'll see lots of dots inside. So these are individual. For simplification, I'm calling them flowers, but technically they are florets. Okay. And so we have these flowers here. And you'll also see that this is a ball-like structure or an urn. Urn is a vase, okay? A vase-like structure. And so you will have a small opening at the top. If you cut it, you'll see that there are scale-like structures, and then it opens into this empty space where there are many, many flowers. And this opening is called the ostiole. Then we have the wall, and these are the flowers. So this is what has happened in the ficus, genus ficus, that in jackfruit what you have, if you just hold this and make it upside down, inside out rather, that will become a jackfruit, or this will become your typical Murray's mulberry, right? But in fig, what has happened, it has moved in, so all the flowers are hidden. And then this is also a special kind of inflorescence. This is what is unique to all ficus species. So you cut it open, if you see this, it's a ficus. If you see a single big seed, then it's not a ficus species. And then of course you will also have a lot of latex in it, but that's also in jackfruit. So this is what I was talking about, that you have the green structures, and then suddenly there are these reds and yellows. And how does this transition happen? This happens because of a specific insect, which are the pollinators of figs. And these insects would come to these green structures, and then they would pollinate, and they also lay their eggs in these, and then it changes, then the development happens, and flowers to seeds happen. Okay. And these insects, again, fig insects, again, just like ficus is on its own genus, similarly, the fig insects are also unique. So they also belong to Agaunidae. It's a special group. And here is an image. This is the eye of a needle. Okay. Fig insects are so tiny. They are like 1 millimeter in size. So they can actually fly through the eye of a needle. So that's the comparison. And what is also unique here is that there is sexual dimorphism. So you see these two insects. These are not two different species, but this is the female that has the wings, and this is the male that is wingless. Okay. And this individual, which is 1 millimeter in size, its adult lifespan is only 1 day, 24 hours. And this we have done, like even tested in labs, that they actually live for a day. And while they are alive, they are not feeding anything. So the sole purpose of their life is to carry the pollen and also lay their eggs. So that they do within 24 hours. So in this mutualism, the pollinator would enter. Here you see that they have entered into the fig and they pollinate, and the figs would start to develop seeds, and they also lay their eggs. Here in this case, she is laying her eggs. With laying of eggs, her offsprings will also develop. So this little incubator, then this opening actually seals off. Okay, it becomes like an incubator, inside which are the developing wasps, babies of the pollinator, and also the developing seeds. And this interaction is not something that has happened yesterday. It's even before we came into existence, and it's an obligate interaction. What do we mean by obligate interaction? Is that unlike many pollination systems where, say, if you, sunflowers, for example, if you have seen, if honeybees don't come, some other insect can also pollinate them. But in this case, in the fig-wasp interaction system, if I remove the wasps, then the figs do not have any pollinator to come in, because this is also very specific. Not all pollinators can enter. So wasps of, say, Ficus bengalensis cannot enter into the figs of Ficus religiosa. So it is species specific. So which essentially means we have 750 species of ficus or fig trees, and there are 750 pollinator species. So if I remove the fig trees for some reason, the pollinators have no place to go to lay their eggs, and their offsprings won't develop. Similarly, for some reason, if the pollinators go extinct, then figs also won't be able to have seeds. So how does pollination happen here? Just like any other flower, if you were to imagine, say if we have to take example of rose, roses will have rose buds. Then at some point the roses would start to bloom, they become fragrant, and at that time you would see a lot of bees coming in. And after a while, the petals would fall down, and if there is any seed formation, seeds would form. So similarly, in case of figs also, though we can't see it, when the figs are really small, that's the stage when the figs are in the bud stage, or we could call them as pre-receptive. So this is pre-pollination stage. So they are not ready. Then a small window opens in their development. It is again for 2 to 3 days maximum, when figs start to emit fragrance, and that attracts the pollinator. So pollinator lives for a day, and this window is open for 2 to 3 days. Pollinator would find the fig, and then she enters and pollinates the fig. Let's see if I can play it. So here, while she is laying eggs, she is also pollinating. And what happens here is that, so this is the ovipositor, or the syringe to simplify it. She inserts this in the flower, and she would lay her egg, and also modifies the tissue, because unlike caterpillars that we have seen that can walk and eat many leaves, uh, these larvae are not moving, crawling, so they are in only one place. And so the mother ensures that they have enough nutrition to complete their development to adulthood. Okay, so the mother would lay egg, one egg per floret mostly, and she modifies this tissue, which becomes like a nutritive tissue. It becomes a bit bulgy also, and then the wasp offspring would continue to develop and consume this nutrition that's there. And by the time it's over, the wasp offspring is also adult. By that time, it is ready to go. And this can be, the wasp offspring can be a male. Here in this case, this offspring can be a male or a female. So again, there are very interesting calculations on how many male offspring versus how many female offspring a mother would put in. So once the eggs are laid, flowers are pollinated, then we have a time period which is here notified as C phase or the developing phase. So this is the time when both the pollinator offspring is developing and the fig seeds are also developing in the syconium. Once that is done, then we have the dispersal. Okay, so if you remember, I mentioned that once the pollinator enters into the fig, the mother pollinator enters, the opening through which she was entering also gets closed, right? So it becomes like an incubator, and it's also a sterile environment. But the offspring, which are the pollinators for the next round, how would they come out? And this is where the males play an important role. The males are wingless, so males are not carrying the pollen. Males will not pollinate, only the females. And this incubator, some door or the window has to be opened, and this is what is being shown here, is that the males are cutting a hole in the fig, in the ripe fig. So if you observe any fig, you will see that there is a little hole on the side, and that is the exit door for the wasps. And when the females fly out, that's the time they carry the pollen from this particular fig. Okay. So just to reiterate, when the fig is in A phase, say this one, young phase, and then in the B phase, the male organs are not developed. So the pollen is not ready. So only pollen from an outside source can come in, and which is what the pollinator is doing. By the time the pollinator completes development, here, by that time, the male organs are also developed and the pollen grain is ready. So the offspring of the female would actually carry, they would become the next generation couriers. So they are the ones who are taking the pollen grain to the next fig tree or the next fig. And once they exit, this is the hole I was talking about. Now I am sure if you go out, you will notice this more often. But this varies. This is in Ficus racemosa, we have this. But in Ficus bengalensis, this ostiole or the opening itself opens up a bit. So there you don't see the hole. And once the hole is, the insects have exited, then the fig changes color. It also becomes more fragrant, which is again to invite the dispersal agent, the other mutualistic partners that come, I'm ready, and they would come to eat the figs, but in the process, they also carry the seeds of the fig to far away places. And this is to show you that when we talk about pollination in general, or even when we are talking about figs, it's not just the plant and the insect. Okay, there are many other levels of interactions that keep happening. In figs, for example, their interacting partners include ants. Now, why ants? When the figs are receiving the pollinators, so there is a ready source of food, lot of nutritious protein sources coming in. So ants actually patrol on these figs and they catch the wasps. Similarly, at this stage, when the wasps are releasing, the matured wasps are coming out. That's also another time when the ants know that again a lot of food is going to be available, they come out. These pollinators often carry nematodes. These are worms that are inside the body. They bring it into the fig. There are many, many species of nematodes. They are also unique to the pollinators and unique to the fig system itself, because these pollinators are not going anywhere, and the pollinators would come into the fig and the nematodes would again use the fig for their development, reproduction, everything, and they would again hitchhike on the next generation to go to another fig tree. And there are mites also. And here I thought I will show you one more video. If you have the, where is the video? Oh, in the next one. This is to show you the So in this video, what was being shown is that first there are these nematodes. Nematodes are brought in by the pollinators. But then there are parasites also. What do the parasites do? What I forgot to mention is that the pollinators, they live for a day, right? When the mother pollinators enters into a fig, she would lay her eggs and she also dies inside the fig only. So it's like a tomb for the mother and the nursery for the offspring. And so there is death inside, but the parasites on the other hand, they live for not for a day, they live for many more days. And instead of getting inside the fig, they actually sit on the surface and using their syringe-like ovipositor, they drill into the fig. And after drilling into the fig, they actually go parasitize on say the fig pollinator, I mean the pollinator wasp, it could be the parasites of the seed. And then you also saw another insect, that's the parasite of parasites. So that's a smarter one even. That doesn't spend its energy on drilling into the fig. Rather, it uses an existing hole itself that's being drilled by another parasite and then uses that space to enter into the fig and then again lay her eggs. So there is a lot of action that goes on even on the fig trees, and some of these interactions are beneficial, some of them are antagonistic or negative, and it's quite fascinating to observe them. The next question can be is that why are fig species ecologically important? Why do we even need to study figs? So other than being interesting, they are also they are fundamental in the food and nutrition security of wildlife. And why so? Here, if you look at this image, these blue ones are the young figs. This is the tree which is in the receptive stage. So this will receive the pollinator, and the red ones are the ones that are matured. Okay. And say we have these 3 fig trees amongst other trees in the forest. Or see, it could be a forest. Even in our urban landscape, this is happening. So what we saw is that every time a pollinator matures, the next generation that comes out, because they live for a day, they have to go and find another fig tree, right? So any wasp that is ready, matured from this, will have to find a tree like this. And once this matures, then maybe this one is in the green stage. So this will fly to this. So this essentially means that at any point of time, trees would be fruiting, right? Because one tree is maturing and the other tree is receptive. To maintain the cycle of the wasp itself, fig trees are asynchronous. So some of them are in the receptive stage, some of them are in the dispersal or ripening stage. And because of this, what happens? During the lean periods in the season, when other trees are not fruiting, you would have at least some fig trees fruiting. And this is where it supports, or how it supports the wildlife, because that's the time when birds and other animals who don't have any other food to eat, they come to fig tree and eat it. And this is precisely why fig trees are also called as the keystone species, because if we remove the fig trees from the system, in the lean period, you will not have, the animals will have less nutrition, and then it will affect animal health, or maybe they won't have any nutrition at all. So which will lead to collapse or reduction in the community composition of the animals themselves. I hope this is clear. If it's not, I can explain it to you again later. So now, so far we have looked at what is pollination, who are the pollinators. We have looked at the diversity of pollinators, that one color, one shape doesn't fit all. And we have also looked at this unique fig wasp interaction. But bringing it to the current scenario, we know that there is a decline in pollinators, and more reports are coming out, and huge decline in the number of insects. And there are many reasons for this. Fig wasps, again, climate change studies has been done, and it shows that a slight change in temperature itself, the wasp's productivity decreases. Now imagine a wasp living for only a day, and during that time suddenly the temperature is high. So it won't be able to fly to the fig tree, or even if it flies, maybe it won't be able to pollinate. So there are problems, and we have to address that also. So that's it. I don't want you to go with a grim note. So here is a little poem which was written by ChatGPT, and then I thought I'll modify it. You can read it. So essentially, all the pollen is golden, more or less, and these golden dust, if it's courier, can be our winged creatures, or couriers can be wind or water. Whoever is the courier, they eventually, once the pollen lands on the stigma, new life starts to grow, and that is because seed formation happens. And we know that with seed formation, of course, then there will be a sapling, and there will be a bigger tree, there will be more flowers, there will be pollinators and other animals and fruits and everything. So that's it. So Swati, this is it. I have included some resources. This I will share later. No. I don't want to show it here. Sorry. So one resource is generally on pollination. This is on sylphid flies. Again, cocoa is important. The videos that I have shown is from this documentary called The Queen of Trees. It's a 52-minute documentary, very, very nicely done. Though it is done on the African ficus tree, the fig tree that we have in our neighborhood, Ficus racemosa, is exactly like that. That's a species I studied. And if you like reading books, then Ladders to Heaven by Mike Shanahan is also an interesting, very interesting book, where he is writing about his fig research, but also connects it to other aspects. So that's it for now. And I hope I'm on time. Yes.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Mahua. What a fascinating talk. I think you had all of us quite, captivated until the end. So thank you so much for that. There are lots of questions in the chat box. Would you like to take a look at the chat box and respond? Or if you want, I can read the questions. Let me know
That's
what you
better.
prefer.
That's better.
I'll read the questions for you. So, okay, so the first question is, I think, yeah, was from Swati Kakotkar, which is, what is the name of the flower that is a bee hotel?
Oh, that's the royal iris,
Royalness. Yeah.
called the Onchocercus irises. They are unique also because of their, I said I was looking at the floral color, and this is quite unique because they, so usually when we are looking at floral colors, we see polymorphism, which is that we have red, pink, yellow, like that, or white. There are distinct colors, but in royal irises, there is a range. And that is where it becomes interesting whether pollinators have a preference for a certain color and if they can lead to selection on colors. And these are extremely red, like they look black. So that also makes it very unique. And they are found in the Middle East. They are endemic to the Middle East. Yes.
Wow. Okay. I'll keep moving to the next question. And so if any of you have follow-up questions, keep like posting it in chat. So next question is from Gaurav Soman. Is the flower shelter used by insects for brief rest or overnight or longer?
They sleep at night, whole night, and they wake up in the morning, they warm themselves. So the temperature drops. So they go in and sleep. And in the morning, when the sun rises, they also start to wake up and then they groom themselves nicely and they come out. That's quite pretty to look at.
Wow, how nice that is. Yeah. Okay. Next question from Gayatri Anand, and I think there's a similar question later from Sai. Is the opening of the fig sealed by the fig tree itself, or does it have something to do with the female wasp?
So on this, I don't have much clarity. It's because some fluid oozes out. Okay, so it may be a physiological thing about the plant, or I don't have an answer to that. All I know is that it gets plugged, some fluid comes out. And I haven't seen any publication where they have looked at that, like the mechanism of it. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Next question from Sushma. If fig wasp is not feeding, then how do they grow or develop?
Hmm. So I showed that in the floret, when the mother is laying the egg, she also injects something so that the floret itself has all the nutrition. Okay. So this, from egg to the adult stage, all the feeding is done inside that flower itself. That's full. That's it. Nothing more. But parasites, on the other hand, they do drink sugar water if given. Pollinators don't.
All right. Okay. Next question from Parul. Can any wasp species pollinate and use any fixed species, or there are specific wasps for specific plants?
Hmm. So for each species of fig, it's a unique pollinator species. Okay, and and it has to be a fig wasp only. It can't be the hornets or other wasps that we see outside because of the size. Now, again, for the figs and the wasps, there are a lot of checks and balances over there. So each fig species, this entry point where through which the pollinator enters, so there is a matching of the width of the head and the entry point. So even if it enters by mistake, for example, the ovipositor length or the length of the syringe which is injected into the floret for laying eggs, that doesn't match. So there are a lot of matching, and this is again in the evolutionary time scale it has happened. So yes, each species has its unique pollinator, and nothing else can come and pollinate except for humans. We can just take the pollen and inject, mix it in sugar water and try to pollinate, but it won't be a good job.
Has anyone done that and tried
Hmm.
that and seen what kind of success?
Yeah. In
Okay.
lab, Anusha was doing. We all do it at some point.
Okay. Okay. Next question is, if the male doesn't come out, then how do they mate?
So mating also happens inside. So this is what happens, that inside the fig itself, the males, now when the females are developing, so after development, they are restricted to the floret itself, which is also called as a gall. Okay. And the males would cut, they would mate, and they also cut a hole for the female, hole in the fig itself for the females to exit. So this you can watch in the documentary. It's very nicely presented over there, the mating part also.
Gaurav has another question. So, the syconiums that are not visited by female wasps, do they just fall out with only flowers inside them?
Yes, they do. They do. And other than that, I was talking about cheating in pollination systems also, right? Uh, so one may ask that yes, the pollinator can enter without carrying any pollen. She can just use the space to lay her eggs. Why pollinate? So again, it has been seen that if the pollinators are cheating, then also the figs drop off.
Then there is Geeta says, thank you so much for this fascinating overview, Mahua.
Thank you,
Is
Geeta.
she has a question also. Is there a high risk of inbreeding and population bottlenecking in a system like this? How have the fig wasps managed to maintain genetic diversity? Would you know?
Hmm. Yes. So usually what happens is that so it's not one female wasp that enters. There are many that enter into a fig, and one would expect that they are genetically different. And again, when they are laying their eggs, I was talking about this sex ratio. Uh, so when the first female enters, so she lays more female offspring and less male offspring. She can decide. Uh, and at a later point, there are more males are being laid than the females. So mixing happens, yes. But again, if there is uh, constrictions, like say, uh, with this climate change or something happens, so only say a very limited genetic variability enters into the fig, then there would be a bottleneck. True.
Yeah. Geeta, if you have a follow-up question, you can ask once we are done with the questions in the comment section. Uh, okay. So then there's a question from Adarias. Okay, that's a comment. Yeah, to an earlier question. Um, And I'm not sure if this is a question, Ada, or a comment. If I'll read the comment, and if there is a question, you can perhaps unmute and ask. So Ada says, I read that the fleshy figs we eat, like the common fig, are mostly parthenocarpic
Hmm.
varieties. So
Hmm.
leave on, ma'am, for expert view.
I understood.
Is that correct? Yeah, yeah.
I was
Okay.
waiting for that question.
Yeah.
Yes. So figs are also one of the earliest domesticated crops. Okay, so we humans started eating figs long time back from the Middle Eastern area, and it was seen that in one particular species of figs that we are eating mostly, when we go to the market and buy figs, those are Ficus carica, and there, if you injure the fig during the early stages, they can develop without pollination itself. But many times, if you cut open a fig, you may see one tiny insect inside also. So not necessarily that you would not have a pollinator. And when I'm talking about carica, I would also like to mention here that this I usually don't mention because it complicates things, is that figs also are of different kinds. So there is a monoecious figs, the examples that I gave in the presentation today, where the male and the female flowers are on the same tree. Carica, on the other hand, is a dioecious fig. So we have a male tree and we have a female tree. Okay. And there also the female tree tricks the pollinator into entering. So they enter and pollinate, but they cannot lay their eggs. So we have the seeds, but there are no offsprings in those. I hope it's clear, Ada.
Ada, if you'd like to unmute and ask or comment, please do so. Okay. Perhaps you can post in the comment section if you can hear. All right, I'll move on. How can we differentiate parasites from real wasps? That's a question from Raman Kumar.
Parasites from real wasp means the pollinators. Yes. Parasites usually have a long ovipositor, a tail-like structure. Uh, Pollinators, again, you can keep them. The parasites will live longer than the pollinators if you keep them together. The other thing is parasite structures are also different. The body shape is different from the pollinator itself. Uh, or you can show them to me.
Okay, so we have lots more, I think, messages and comments. I would just like to ask the group if it's okay for everyone to extend by 5 more minutes so we can go through the questions. If it's okay, please give me a thumbs up. Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up, so I'm going to take the liberty of extending by 5 minutes. All right, I'll read the next question. How do, yes, tell
One
me. Yeah.
for Raman. The
Yeah.
other thing is that if you are observing the figs over long time, you will always find the pollinators entering into the fig. The parasites will be sitting on the surface, so they will lay their eggs from the surface. But if you are collecting a ripe fig and then you cut it open and you see, like, 4 or 5 kinds of individuals which look like different species, then one of the identifying feature is that usually the parasites will have a longer syringe-like structure. Body color can also be metallic in many parasites. Continue.
There's another question from Ada. How do fig trees detect and sanction cheater foundresses that enter but fail to pollinate effectively?
Hmm. So the exact mechanism, I'm not aware of. All I know is that they can detect. Uh, so it could be, most likely, I'm guessing, is that the nutrition flow that goes into making seeds versus the wasp could be different, and figs probably have a way of estimating that, not actively, but they just have it. Like there are internal signals. When figs drop off, it means that there is a signal from the plant development that we senesce it, we kill it, and as a result, the tissues would become weaker in that area, which is probably because of, I think, either nutrition supply or maybe some chemicals, hormones, something is released, something or something is not happening. Yes. Exact mechanism, I don't know, and I'm not sure if anyone has been able to do that. So for figs, the other thing is lot of things we can't do experimentally because we still haven't figured out how to culture figs in the lab. And usually doing it, climbing on the trees and doing experiments in the natural setup, many things, lot of environmental factors are there. So it's difficult to know. But Ada, I will look it up. Good question. I should check it. Thanks.
Another question is which one is that smallest pollen grain which you showed? So
Ah,
which species does it?
that
Yeah.
is touch me not.
Okay. Okay. Next question from Prajakta. Anything which a common person can do to help the decreasing number of pollinators apart from reducing or stopping the fumigation wherever possible?
Yes. See, some of the challenges that these insects are facing nowadays is, say, lack of space. Uh, so there are things. First is lack of food source. One can have enriched food source by again planting pollinator friendly plants, right? Those that are giving out nectar, that have pollen. Organize a garden in a way that there is flowering happening all the time, most of the time. Uh, Plant flowers that are good sources of nectar and pollen. Then the second thing is nesting spaces. Hmm? Uh, I didn't go into this, but insects again vary a lot where they are living. Some of them live in wood, live inside wood, lay their eggs in the wood, they make tunnels. Some of them would fold leaves. Some of them are ground nesting. So they actually dig inside like ants, and they dig inside, they make chambers, and that's where they put their eggs and keep. So again, a healthy soil is one way. uh, then, so nesting space can be that if there is wood, like keep the wilderness around. That's one thing. And the other thing I feel, especially in urban areas, is this lack of connectivity. You have one patch, and then the next flowering patch is really far away. So that is typically when people are doing the butterfly gardens, they make sure that there are corridors like that. So these are some of the things that even in urban planning, probably people could uh, think about that. I think it's happening in Bangalore, that neighborhood parks, there is connectivity, and that nowadays people can do mathematically, that how, if an insect needs to fly 2 kilometers to find food, then can you have a flowering plant within 2 kilometers range?
Thank you, Dr. Mahua. I think we can close here. There are three more questions in the comments section, but they are related to what you just said. They were about how far can the wasps travel. So they were related to this. So I think it's a good place to close the session.
No,
So I
no, I
thank.
will.
Yeah, tell me.
Uh, so when we're talking again, pollinators can fly to different distances. Bees can fly to 2 kilometers, 4 kilometers, but fig wasp, uh, because we are on fig wasp, I would like to put it here, they could fly for more than 10 kilometers. And this is not active flying. Hmm? A very beautiful study has been done in Namib Desert in South Africa. And what the fig wasps do, because they are tiny, they actually get onto the wind column and they get carried by the wind, and as they sense a tree, they come down. So fig wasps, going by their size, actually can go very far. So that's why I stopped you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, that answers the question about how far can the fig wasps travel. So yes, thank you, Dr. Mahua, for this fascinating talk, and thank you everyone who joined us today. And we've recorded the session, so we'll be putting it out on YouTube. And the resources you shared, thank you so much for that. The movie, especially, really nice to watch. So yeah, I hope you all can go back and access and these resources, watch the movie. Thank you again. Yeah, bye bye.
Thanks.
Have a
Thanks
wonderful.
a lot. Yes,
Yeah,
thanks a lot for listening. Bye bye.
bye. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you and
Oh,
a
Merry
Happy New
Christmas.
Year.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, bye.
Bye.